Okay, Unit 4 is about sensation and perception, and it's really cool. It's got a lot of like optical illusions, and I'm not sure if this is actually moving for you, but I got this from collegeboredom.com. And if you count the people, count them before they switch, and then count them again, and there's a different number. Where'd that guy go? It's just fun stuff. So let's begin sensation and perception, shall we? Okay, so stare at the coffee bean, shall we? Loki, you're making noise. Shush. My dog is squeezing his toy. I told him he has to be absolutely silent while I'm recording these videos. So stare at the coffee beans, please. Okay, did you find the face? Okay, they say that if you find the face very, very fast, that maybe the right hemisphere of your brain is a little bit more activated and more, I don't know, in tune than would be the left hemisphere. I don't know, it's things that they say. Is it accurate? I don't know, it's just fun. Have you found the face yet? Some of you have not. That's my dog squeezing his squeeze toy. Look, come here. I'm going to show you my dog. Hold on. Now I'm going to show you the man that is creeping amongst the coffee beans. There he is. Are you surprised? Anyway, this is just for fun. This is the fun and sensation perception chapter. Here we are. Okay, so let's define some things before we begin. What is sensation? Sensation is, well, here's the definition. There's my finger. The definition is it's like how you sense things before you process them and critically think about them. And this is called also bottom-up processing. I want you to think about the word bottom-up, like it's little bottom up to your brain. I smell something, then your brain interprets it. I see something through my eyes, then your brain interprets it. It's literally bottom up. It's all sensation, right? What you see, what you taste, what you feel on your skin, what you hear, all of that is bottom-up processing. In addition to that, we have something called perception. Here's the definition, right? And perception is also top-down processing, right? Look what I do with my hands. Top down. It's kind of how you're interpreting the data, right? You smell something, that's bottom up. But does it smell good? That's top down. Is it delicious? Is it cookies? Is it my famous banana bread? Smells good. I like it. That's top down processing. When it goes in, it's bottom up. When you're thinking about it and determining what it is, I smell cookies, that is top down processing. Got it? Got to know the difference. Sensation and perception, they're two different things, but they're also called bottom up and top down. Good? Yes? Okay. Now I want you to look at this picture. How do you feel about this picture? Just kind of like look at it. I'm enjoying the picture right now. Okay, take a good look at it. Okay. Now, if I ask you what is bottom up and what is top down in the picture, you should be able to tell me. Bottom up is raw data. Raw data. What do you see? Lines, colors, shading. But the moment you determine something that you see, like an image, and you say, I see a tree, that's top down. So when you see, I see shades of green and gray and black and white and browns and a little bit of like different kinds of hues of green and yellow here and there, that is bottom up. It's just raw data. But when you see a tree, I see horses, I see a guy riding a horse, I see a face. Did you guys notice how many faces there are in here? I see a face in the tree. Do you see it? Yeah. Let's count a couple. Just a couple. Because I heard someone told me there was 13 faces in here. I can't find 13. But I'll show you a couple that I see. A couple of obvious ones. Is this guy here? Okay, this guy over here. There's a tree one right there. Do you see it? Eyes, nose, mouth. A guy right here. I'm saying guy, but this could be a girl over here. And here, there's another one kind of right here. There's just the nose and mouth of one right here. And here's an eye, right? Pieces of it. Oh, there's like a nose right there, kind of, sort of. So we could be here all day looking for faces. I heard there's 13. I don't see 13. But anyway, the moment you see a face, that's top down. I critically think I see a face top down. When you see raw data, that's bottom up. Know the difference. Cool picture, right? Now, would you hang this in your room? Now, some of you guys might be like, oh no, but like other people might like, well, I like nature, maybe I would. That's top-down processing too. As soon as you form an opinion about a picture, that's top-down processing because that's perception right there. Okay, which one is bottom up and which one is top down? Remember, bottom up is shading. I see lines, I see black, I see white, I see shades of gray, right? That's bottom up. But as soon as you say, I see a lady in a coat, right? I see a lady in a coat walking down some kind of, I don't know, like cobblestone park. I see a tree. When we see something, that's considered top down. Do you see a man's face? I'll do this in red. Here's his forehead, right? Here's an entire man's face. Here's the eyes. See them? Eye. And then you got the nose and the mouth of the guy's face. Ah! I'm having way too much fun with this. Okay, let's go to the next one. All right, what's bottom up and what's top down over here? Bottom up is raw data, so come on, talk to me. At least pretend. I miss people. Okay, you see shades of and lines, right? What kind of colors do you see right there? That's bottom up. That's bottom up. Soon as you say, I see a, what do you see? A tiger face? Soon as you see tigers, right? I see a couple tigers. If you see tree, if you can identify it, that is top down. Critically thinking down. Oh, this is one of my favorites. What's bottom up? Talk about shading, talk about color, talk about lines. Come on. What's bottom up? Now, what do you see? Do you see an old woman or do you see a young lady? Okay, so do you know what they say about this picture? That most young people like yourselves, because you guys are teenagers, most young people see the young lady first, right? And I'll do the young lady in red. The young lady, she's not looking at you. Here's her profile, right? She's got a pretty little nose, and this is her jawline. And then her neck goes down like this, and she's got like this choker right here, right? And this is her ear. And her wispy hair is red. I'm going to make wispy hair in red. Do-do-do. Wispy hair in red. Do you see the old lady now? The old lady, right? I'll circle her. She's her whole face. She doesn't have much of a chin. See, she's got no chin. And I just pointed out the old lady probably as I was pointing out the young girl. And you should be able to see both. They say that the younger you are, the faster you will see the youth. The older you are, the faster you will see the older woman. But remember, bottom up, I see shades, I see color, but then top down, I see an old lady, a young woman. Do you see a cat? Some people say this is a cat. A cat that's on a hat. Get it? Ah! Cat on a hat. Funny. Come on, I'm trying to entertain you. Okay, what animal do you see? All right, bottom up processing is shading color lines, but remember, once you see an animal, that's top down. So what animal do you see? Everybody sees a horse, but tip your head over to the side. Do you see a frog? If you don't, I'll point it out. Here's a frog. Here's the frog's head right over here. and his body goes this way. See the frog now? And this is kind of like the lily pad he's on. See it now? Ha! Funny, funny. Okay, what do you see? Did you say duck? Wait, did you say rabbit? I couldn't hear you. Both. You should see both. And it could be a duck, it could be a rabbit. That's top-down processing. Your perception is top-down processing. Some people see a duck first and then a rabbit later. It doesn't really matter. That's still top-down. Okay, the first word here is cocktail party effect. You know when you're at a party and there's lots of stuff going on and music playing and like people are doing stuff and they're eating and there's a smell of food, there's all kinds of sight and like audio sensations, right? And then someone says your name, Lisa, and you go, what? Right? That's called the cocktail party effect. Our ability to all of a sudden tune out all other stimuli and listen to the sound of our name. And we can do that. We could be in a really, really busy kind of like place. And all of a sudden someone says our name and we go, what? And that's the cocktail party effect. We can tune in and tune out as we see fit. Now, the inattentional blindness is going to be this video on the gorilla test. I want you to watch this famous test, and we'll talk about the point of that later. Okay, this is a very cool video. It's about change blindness. And I want you to write in your guided notes what change blindness is. It's a form of inattentional blindness that a change has taken place and you are unaware. And they say that it could be really obvious changes. So I want you to watch this video so you can see change blindness taking place. Now, they say that it could also be a form of like not noticing a change, like Elmo. Elmo over the years, you guys remember Elmo from Sesame Street? The person who used to be the voice of Elmo has changed over the years. A couple of people noticed, but most people did not. Sounds just like Elmo. That's a form of change blindness too. The narrator changed, right? The puppeteer changed, but nobody kind of noticed. Change blindness is that you're so in tune with what you're doing that you don't notice sometimes an obvious change. And that has to do with perception. How alert are you? How perceptive are you? Are you very, like, I don't know, aware of your surroundings? If you are, you might notice a change, but guess what? Most people won't. And in this video, you're going to see how people don't notice the change. This is the gorilla test part 2. Just give it a view because it's just funny. But remember, the point of the gorilla test and inattentional blindness is that when we're so focused on something important, we might not see something obvious. All right, this is one of my favorites. This is called the McGurk. And remember, if you're having trouble seeing these videos in the PowerPoint, don't worry. I'm going to post these videos also in the module so you can see them. But basically, there's going to be a man repeating this. All you're ever going to hear is the sound B-A, B-A, ba, 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 over and over again. B-A, B-A, ba, ba, ba. But as soon as someone else, like they kind of input the audio and the audio always is ba ba ba, but his lips will change to ba ba ba, like he's doing a V. You will hear the V even though it's just the B sound the whole time. It's kind of wild. And this is called the McGurk effect. Go online and Google the McGurk effect and you'll see lots of different examples of it. One of my favorites is the Bill Nye Science Guy one. So just Google Bill Nye McGurk and it's so cool. It's so cool. Remember Bill Nye? Bill, Bill, Bill. And then you're going to hear pale and then you hear mayo. It's crazy. You got to try it. Okay, signal detection theory. Okay, so my cell phone's right next to me, like I know a lot of your cell phones are next to you, right? Let's talk about your cell phone. Let's pretend you shut your cell phone off and you're going about your day. And it's on silent, but you hear like a little buzz and you know a text message came in. That's called a hit. A faint signal was present and you were able to detect it. But let's pretend that you're really busy. You're at the mall, you're walking around doing your thing, and then you have your phone on silent. A text message comes in. You don't hear that minor little buzz. Maybe because it's in your pocket or in your purse, you don't feel it, you don't hear it, and you miss it. That's number two. That's another possibility that can happen in signal detection. You missed the signal. Totally normal. You were busy, right? Hasn't it ever happened where your mom calls you 57 times and you missed it because you were like so busy? Yeah. Then there could be a false alarm. Have you ever waited for like a text message that you really wanted to hear from somebody? You know what I'm talking about? Like you want to hear from this person really, really bad, and you think that a text message came in, and then you look and you're like, oh yeah, nobody's called me. That's called false alarm. You think a signal came in, but it didn't, and you were wrong. Got it? Yeah. And then the other option, the fourth option, and we're just talking about the cell phone, but the fourth option is called correct rejection. You don't even check your phone because you know nothing happened. Now, these are the four possibilities of signal detection theory. Do I sense my incoming text message coming in? But this could be anything. This could be the air condition turning on in your house, right? Air condition, when it comes on, it's usually not like a big boom. You sometimes miss it if you're busy or your TV's on too loud. But sometimes you hear it and that would be a hit. Sometimes you don't. That would be a miss. Sometimes you think you heard it and then you're like, oh no, it hasn't gone on yet. And that's three, false alarm. And sometimes you just know the air hasn't gone on because you just know. And that's correct. And that's called correct rejection. Do you understand the four possibilities of signal detection theory? Okay, good. Now, subliminal messages are kind of hard to explain, but it's easier to explain subliminal messages when you're talking about absolute threshold. Absolute threshold is the minimum amount of stimulus energy that you detect something, anything, at least 50% of the time with accuracy. Here's a couple of examples about humans. Do you know that humans, we can detect a teaspoon of sugar in a gallon of water? Did you know that? Do you know that humans, we can tell the difference between Aquafina and let's say Dasani or Zephyr Hills? It's water, and we can determine the difference. That's absolute threshold. In fact, that's the just noticeable difference. The difference between Aquafina and Dasani. They're both water. And if they're both super cold, I will drink either one. I am not a water snob. My mother is a water snob. She only drinks like, what is it, Avion, and there's this other one. I think it's like Boss water. It's ridiculously expensive, and I don't buy that. I'd buy Zephyr Hills, and when she comes to my house, she'll be like, do you have any Avion? I'm like, no, I've got Zephyr Hills, and either you drink what I got or you don't. And some people can maybe taste more than others, and there are people out there called super tasters. You can Google that. That's pretty cool. But for the most part, absolute threshold is what the average person can hear, what the average person can taste, what the average person can see. Do you know that the average person can see a candle lit in a very dark area, right? Nothing else intrusive. They can see a candle lit a mile away. Isn't that amazing? Humans are amazing. And that's the absolute threshold, the minimum amount of stimulus energy it takes for me to detect something. Well, subliminal messages are right underneath that. Subliminal messages are like in movies, right? Your eyes are open and you're watching the movie, but they can stick like one little cell in a reel that has a word like hungry. And they think that maybe it doesn't affect you consciously, but it might affect you subconsciously. And when you're watching your movie and you see a word flash in front of you, hungry, do you get up and go get some popcorn? Might you? Do you think they've tried it? They totally have. And that's illegal. Like, they're not supposed to be putting messages that you don't know about in your movies or in your song lyrics or in the music that you hear or anything. it's illegal. Now, you can buy subliminal tapes. They come on CDs and you can download digital versions of subliminal tapes, but they have to disclose 100% what is on those audio recordings. So sometimes it'll say, okay, classical music with no narration, and then they'll have subliminal messages that you can hear. And then while you're cleaning your house listening to your classical music, what's underneath, right below your threshold for hearing, it's definitely there, are words. And they have some to stop smoking, and they have some to lose weight, and they have some for self-esteem. And they'll say things like, you are beautiful. You are valuable. And you're cleaning your house, right? Classical music, and you're hearing this, but are you really hearing it? You're not really hearing it, but subliminally you might be, and it seeps into your subconscious. Now, I have a question for you. What school of thought would you have to be to believe that's even true, or that could even work? Is it cognitive, biological, evolutionary, biopsychosocial? No. Behaviorist? They would totally laugh at that. Humanist? No. What did I leave out? Did you say psychoanalytic? You bet. The people of the psychoanalytic school of thought will say, yes, subliminal messages are real, and they could affect you, and they can make you do things that maybe you're not even aware of. That when that movie theater flashes the word hungry on the screen and you physically don't notice it, that subliminally you're seeping it in, and it might make you get up and go get some popcorn, right? Okay, do we understand? Great. Okay, let's talk about Weber's law and Fechner's law. Here it is. Weber's law says there's something different. And let's look at, what's her name here? Joanna something. I just know it's Black Widow. What's her name? Okay, forget her name, but it's the Black Widow. And do you see like the before and after? Do you see something different about her? What do you think it is? Okay, maybe there's something different about her. That's Weber's law. When you notice a change, I notice a change in her between these two pictures, her before and after. There's a change. Now I know I'm covering up Kim Kardashian's face, but the moment that you say, you know what, it's a nose construction there. It's plastic surgery on the nose. The moment you detect the change and you know what it is, that's Fechner's law. So Weber's law says, I notice a change. Fechner's law says, I know what it is. And you want to hear a funny secret? Plastic surgeons will often say to people over the summer, like when they want to have like a change done on their face or anything, plastic surgeons will say, well, before you go back to school, if you don't want anyone to know that you've had a nose job, change your hair, right? Color your hair or get a haircut. People will say, hey, you look great. And they'll notice a change, but they won't know it's your nose. Fun fact, Weber's law and Fechner's law. Okay, so these are the parts of the eye. Check it out. And I'll have a website that's interactive that you could learn the parts of the eye. Okay, this is also a crash course video that I will post in modules. So if it doesn't work for you here, do not worry. Okay, if this PowerPoint is working for you properly, right now you're seeing the pictures change colors. Do you see it? Okay, this is called the Young-Helmholtz trichromatic color theory. And so when you see the picture with the colors, you're supposed to stare at it. So it should happen again for you in a second. There it goes. Stare at the red dot for 10 seconds. Just stare. Here we go. We're staring. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom! Did you see like flashes of color just happen? Because the PowerPoint took away the color. But what you saw was the after image of the color. The red, right, converts to green. The yellow converts to blue. The black converts to white. And you see the opponent of the color. That's called opponent process theory. And you just experienced it. Cool, right? Okay, so we're going to get ready to look at some after image effects. Now, if you look online, they're called a lot of different things like ghost image. Um, it's sometimes called image burn-in because you have to burn the image into the retina. So there's different ways that you might hear about it online. You can Google these. There's so many of them. I'm just going to show you a few. So here's a couple. Ready? I just want you to open your eyes and stare at the picture. Ready? Here we go. Stare, stare, stare. We're going to try to stare for 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep your eyes open. Okay, what do you see? Did you see the flag as it should be with the red, white, and blue? If you did see a quick flash of that, that's the opponent process theory at work. Let's do another one. Stare, stare, stare. You might have seen this one before. This is all over the internet. But after, and this one I could show you a little bit less because it doesn't have that color feature. The black and white is so apparent that you'll see it faster. And if you're staring, boom, right? Some people say Duck Dynasty, but it's supposed to be Jesus. But like if you blink your eyes, right, you might see that same image all over the wall. It's pretty fun, right? Okay, stare. This is my favorite. See those 3 dots on her nose? Stare at that. Keep your eyes really open and stare. Try not to blink. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep your eyes open. Try not to blink. And did you see Beyonce? It looks like Beyonce to me, but I actually Googled it. It's not Beyonce. It's a model, and she's like advertising for a credit card. But wasn't that cool? Okay, this is a video about nearsighted and farsighted. So just remember that the word nearsighted means that you see near objects, and farsighted means you see far objects. A lot of people get those mixed up, but it's pretty easy to understand. Near-sighted, I see near. Far-sighted, I see far. Okay? And acuity just means the sharpness of your vision. I'm not sure if this video will work for you. It may or may not, but it doesn't really matter because you don't have to do it. It's a color blindness test. You could take one online. They're all over the place. And color blindness is a deficit in color discrimination. The most common kind of color blindness is not being able to distinguish between reds and greens. It is more common in men. Dogs, they say, lack the receptors for the wavelengths of red. Therefore, they have limited color spectrums as well. Okay? That's what color blindness means. Okay, this is called the phi phenomenon. It's actually an optical illusion, and you're perceiving motion when there is no motion. All there really is a series of blinking lights. And here's the cool thing. You're also experiencing the after image effect because don't you see a green dot? There is no green dot. That's the after image of the dot that disappears. And the reason why you see the circular motion is because they're blinking in a certain formation, like in a certain pattern. This is how like the lights of Las Vegas, they look like they're moving, right? They're not. And you know, have you ever seen the like those Christmas light competitions like in the winter time on TV where people like set their lights to motion and music? That's the phi phenomenon. There is no motion. It's just a series of blinking lights in a certain order that make us perceive motion when there is no motion. Okay, you could try this if you want to. You have to kind of look past your finger. You'll see like a floating finger. It's kind of cool. Okay, here's a video on how we hear, and I'll be posting this in modules. If you cannot see it through the PowerPoint, I'll be posting this in modules underneath the Learn It tab because it's a nice little explanation of how you hear. But really that website that I'm going to be posting where you interact and you learn how to like the process of hearing and vision, it's great. So that's probably all you need. But I'm going to always give you more than what you need because I like to give you more. Okay, and this is also about hearing imbalance, a crash course video that I will post in modules for you if you can't see it from this PowerPoint. I do apologize, but I can't fix all these technical issues. I can just provide alternative ways of viewing them. Okay, let's talk about hearing, shall we? All right, so the basic measuring unit of sound is called a decibel. Now, you want to be careful with anything above 85. If it's above 85 for prolonged periods of time, it could expose you to hearing loss. This is why members of bands that are on stage and they expose themselves to loud sounds, you know, hours and hours, sometimes every night, show after show, they experience hearing loss. Think of those old bands from the 60s and 70s, like The Who. Every single member has experienced hearing loss, if not completely deaf. Also, the members of like the Rolling Stones, those old bands from the 60s and 70s, all have hearing issues because they never wore protection. Now people know better and they wear hearing protection to protect their ears. Now, a normal conversation is about 60 decibels. A whisper is about 20 decibels. Now, there's a couple of different theories of how we hear. Place theory says that we hear different pitches because they trigger different places along the basilar membrane. And then the other theory is called frequency theory. It's the number of sound waves per second determining pitch. Different theories on how we hear. Probably the most important aspect of this slide is knowing what is a decibel and know the ranges. Above 85 is dangerous, 60 is conversation, and 20 is like whispering. Okay, this is just a picture that kind of shows you the potential for noise damage, how many hours, and this is why you see like guys who mow the lawn and stuff, they have ear protection, right? Because if they're mowing the lawn for hours and hours and they're exposing their hearing to that ear-splitting noise, I mean, they're in danger of having catastrophic damage. Oh, I love this. I hope you can see this through the PowerPoint, but if you can't, I'll make sure to post it on modules. This is Ellen DeGeneres, and she saw this girl on YouTube. This is the first time she ever heard anything. And she was born deaf, and the reason why she's deaf, and she'll explain it in the video, is because it was a genetic, kind of like a flaw, that she was born without those little tiny hair cells in the inner ear. So it doesn't pass through to the auditory nerve for the brain to process hearing, therefore she can't hear. So she got the cochlear implant, and the cochlear implant is very expensive. It's about $30,000 per ear. And so she gets the cochlear implant on one ear, and she's hearing for the first time. And it's so emotional and like just really kind of amazing. And then so Ellen saw this on YouTube because it went viral, and then she invited her on the show and kind of interviews her what it's like to hear for the first time. It's really cute. And her she's got two little girls and her husband's in the audience. You will see. Now, conduction deafness is loss caused by the mechanical system that conducts sound waves into the cochlea. Now, this is where a hearing aid can help. Here's the problem. Sensory neural hearing loss, like nerve deafness, which is caused by the damage, like from ear splitting noise, right, above 85 decibels. And it could also happen because of disease or high fevers or some kind of genetic problem or any kind of biological changes linked with aging. This is called sensory neural hearing loss, nerve deafness, and this unfortunately can be helped a little bit by the hearing aid, but the hearing aid can't really do it all the way. This is why those old 60s and 70s bands like The Who and the Rolling Stones, they have to have the cochlear implant for them to hear again. They need this surgery because a hearing aid is not enough. So it's interesting. The cochlear implant, remember, is an electronic device. It's wired into the cochlear's nerves. It conveys sound. And here's an interesting fun fact. It takes about 2 years to actually make sense of sound. If you're born completely deaf and you're an adult and you get the cochlear implant, you don't just suddenly understand sounds. Like sounds, you don't have any files in your brain that you say to yourself, okay, that's a bird chirping, that's someone's heels walking down a hallway, that's someone breathing next to me. You don't know what those things are. So it's sometimes people say when they first get the cochlear implants, kind of frightening, because you're trying to make sense of sound. So it's pretty interesting. I hope you get to see it from the PowerPoint, but like I promised, it will be in the modules if you can. Now, these are some pictures of the cochlear implant. Now, remember, the younger you are, the faster you'll be able to figure out sound. So for the adult, it might take 2 years to understand sound and the location of where it's coming from. But for babies, they might be able to get it in just a few months. Isn't that cool? That's the, elasticity of a young brain. Okay, so in this section of the chapter, they're going to be talking about your senses. And so the first sense is the sense of smell. If you can't smell, that's called anosmia. Anosmia is the inability to smell. And smell is wired in us. It goes right to the amygdala. That's why, like, have you ever were about to eat something and like you hold it up to your face and it smells funky and you're like, what? And you don't even put it in your mouth. It's almost like danger, right? We're wired to be kind of like nauseated at certain smells, and it could save our life. We might not eat bad meat that could like literally poison us and kill us because of the smell. Smell bypasses the frontal lobe. Like it bypasses that critical thinking, goes right to the amygdala, to the limbic system, and lets us know something is wrong. Like smelling smoke or smelling foul odors. It could be like a survival thing. Isn't that cool? Now, what allows us to smell is called the olfactory epithelium, and that's the part of the nasal passage that contains the receptors for smell. Humans have about 100 million receptor cells. Dogs have a whole bunch more. And pheromones are secreted by the human body, but they actually don't have a smell, although people relate them to sweating, because we emit the most pheromones from like gross places like the groin area and the armpit. But pheromones are supposed to be what attracts us to other people. Isn't that interesting? Now, I'll be showing you a video about pheromones and how they can put human pheromones in perfume. And they do like a dating experiment with some people that are like doing that speed dating, and they're trying to find love and they just can't, find it. So they go on these like dating things. It's kind of sad. And you see them do like these little tests. Do the pheromones work or don't they? So this is fun stuff. And remember, again, I'm sorry if you can't see it from the PowerPoint, I'll post it in the module. All right, another sense isn't that scary? Taste. Look at that. Ew. Okay, so taste is a sense, and it's brought to you by the papilla on your tongue. These are taste buds that are located on the papilla, and they're actually all over the mouth. There used to be a saying that different parts of the tongue detected different tastes, and now we know that's not true. It's all over the mouth, and they're like little buds, and each bud has the receptor for sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. If you're not sure what umami is like that savory taste, like that garlic. When you taste something savory, that's umami. Like a steak, if you eat steak, and I don't eat steak, but if you like steak, that's savory. The vestibular sense is one of the forgotten senses. This is our sense of balance. Without the vestibular sense, you would not be able to stand upright. You wouldn't be able to sit upright. This is why also, it has to do with the semicircular canals. When you have an ear infection and you feel dizzy, that's because you might have too much fluid throwing off your balance. The vestibular sense, balance. Now another forgotten sense is your kinesthetic sense. And this is your body's awareness of what it's doing. It could be total pitch black darkness and you know you're sitting, right? You know what your hand is doing. My hand is lifting, my fingers are wiggling. Kinesthetic awareness. is your body's sense of what you're doing all the time. And it could be because we have receptors located all over our muscles and joints that tell our brain what we're doing. Now, the largest organ in the human body is your skin. Did you know that? Fun fact again, it's your skin. And this brings you your touch sensation. We have hairy skin, we have glabrous skin. And it's like, look at your arm. The top of your arm has hair. It's less sensitive than would be the underneath part of your arm that has no hair. This is why like lips are so sensitive, right? You don't have hair on your lips. So remember that the non-hairy parts of your body, that's called glabrous skin, and they're very, very sensitive. Now, in this part of the chapter, they talk about, this is really talking about your brain. They talk about phantom limb pain. And I'm going to show you a video about mirror therapy and phantom limb pain. I want you to pay attention to this. This is cool stuff. And it really hits home a lesson about the brain. Here you're going to hear from an amputee. He lost his leg in the war, and he still feels cramping in his foot that no longer exists. He still feels itching. Sometimes he'll feel like the nail of his toe is kind of like pulled back, and he feels like sensation when there is no leg. Isn't that amazing? That's called phantom limb pain. And this is the answer to the question. The reason why phantom limb pain happens is because although you cut off the limb, you did not cut off the memory of the limb in the brain. Your brain is going, right foot, fingers and toes, itch, cramping, it's still there. It doesn't cut it out in the brain, even though the limb might be cut off. And that's why phantom limb pain can exist sometimes, for more than a year. And sometimes, unfortunately, people will claim that it doesn't go away at all. So here's how they help people with phantom limb pain with something called mirror therapy. You are tricking your brain. Isn't that cool? Check it out. Here are some pictures of the guy doing mirror therapy in phantom limb pain. And it's almost like you're getting your brain to think that the limb is there, right? The right foot is there again, and you're stretching it and massaging it, scratching it, whatever the feeling is that you need to kind of like remedy. And the mirror kind of makes your brain think that it's happening. It's just amazing. And look, it's just a mirror. You can do this at home. So it's really great. Now, here's a cool part of sensation perception are these different kinds of, they're almost like disabilities. This is called prosopagnosia. It's the inability to see a face. And believe it or not, there's more people out there with prosopagnosia than you think. I don't know the statistic offhand, but when I saw the statistic, I remember thinking to myself, that's a lot more people out there than I ever imagined would have this problem. I see your face, right? And I see your nose and your eyes and your mouth all like in the correct place, but I won't know it's you. And people who have this, when they look in the mirror, they don't even recognize themselves. And if you look quickly at the picture that you're seeing right before you, that girl behind you, it's the same girl, but she has different hairstyles and she looks like different people. People with prosopagnosia, when they work with others, they usually, and they'll tell their friends, listen, I can't see your face. So if you change your hairstyle, I might not recognize who you are. So how do you know people? The sound of their voice, the way they dress, their mannerisms, and their hairstyle. You won't know them by their face. Isn't that cool? It's called prosopagnosia. Say that 10 times fast. It's also called face blindness, and here's a video about prosopagnosia. There's a chapter that we'll be doing in the future called development, and it's like baby stuff. One of the reflexes that we're born with is called sensory adaptation. And this is when you get used to your senses. Do you guys fall asleep with your TV on? I'm going to admit something to you. You know that I cannot sleep without the TV on. I usually put on like the Sci-Fi Channel, or I'll put on if I'm really tired and I need to sleep and I can't sleep, I'm all wired up. I'll like I'll watch QVC. It's like this home shopping channel. It's like super boring, and they sell like sandals and vacuums, and sometimes the vacuums will excite me and I'll wake up. But like I have to sleep hearing something. That's sensory adaptation. You can lull yourself to sleep with the TV on. You can fall asleep with the lights on, right? You just get used to the things around you, and that's called habituation. Now, when there's a small change in the environment and you notice a difference, that's called dishabituation. And at school, we have this copier, right? Everybody hates it. And it's kind of like we have this love hate relationship with our copier at school. Um, I remember when we first got the copier and it was working fine. And a couple days later, I would hear something different about the copier. And I said to one of the secretaries, I was like, I think the copier's going to die. I hear it like wheezing. And you know what? Lo and behold, a couple days later, it did die. And what happened? I got so used to the hum of the copier that when I heard a weird noise, I was like, something's wrong. And I was right. That's called dishabituation. I'm going to post this video in case you can't see it here on this PowerPoint, but it's about synesthesia. What if the color blue had a smell to you and only to you? What if letters have different colors to you and only to you? You might be a synesthete. Now, synesthesia happens to you. You can't make it happen, and I don't consider it a disability. It's just kind of like the cross wiring of the senses, and it happens when you're a baby, right? You're learning the color red, but then something clicks with red like a smell. You're tasting food, right? You might be tasting sour or something bitter or something sugary and sweet, and you cross it with a shape, and your brain relates it to the shape. Remember when I do this, this means what? Neurons, right? It crosses. Like, could you have cross wiring of a shape and a color, or a taste and a shape? And when you taste the soup, you go, oh, this tastes too round. Isn't that weird? Something tasting too round. That's the life of a synesthete. And in all my years of teaching, I have only met two synesthetes, well, maybe actually three synesthetes. And it's pretty cool. And I don't consider it a disability at all. It's more like a kind of like a superpower. It's kind of cool. So learn about synesthetes in the video. Crossing of the senses. This is just weird, right? I saw this and I was like, this should belong in my sensation perception chapter, but I don't know what to do with it. But if you look at it, do you see movement? That's an optical illusion. There is no movement. And what are they trying to get you to see? Those little, do you see this right here? Let me circle it. This, they're trying to get you to see what? Coiled up snakes. And if you see movement, you're not alone. There is no actual movement, but your eyes kind of make the movement. Cool, right? The Gestalt principle, Gestalt, a German word that means whole picture. And look, see this word? What does it say? Exactly. I know you can read it. Do you read this one? This says 8. This one says tie. What is this one? Design. This one says 2 words. Do you see it? It says dirty and clean. Do you see that? I know I'm covering up these two people with their faces. And you see that's a panda. You don't have to see a whole perfect image to know what it is. And that's what Gestalt principle means. We can perceive a whole picture even if it's actually not all there. Okay, so do you see the floating white triangle? Well, newsflash, there is no floating white triangle. You're perceiving the floating white triangle based on the images that are put forth in front of you in black. The little Pac-Man guys are creating that floating white triangle. This is the law of closure, that you will perceive something because your brain just tries to close the image. That's the law of closure. That's just law number 1. Here's another example of closure. Can you read this? Well, I'm going to read it to you. I want you to follow along with me. And I know you can do this too. Are you ready? Okay. According to a research study at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter in what order the letters In a word R, the only important thing is that the first and last letter be in the right place. The rest can be a total mess and you can still read it without a problem. This is because the human mind does not read every letter, but the word as a whole. Were you able to do that too? That is the law of closure in action. And if you hear that, that is my dog eating a yogurt cup. I'll be right back. Okay, so the next Gestalt principle, number 2, is the law of continuity, and that means that lines are seen as flowing in a smooth path. So the law of continuity allows us to see like a continuous image even if it's not present. Gestalt principle number 3 is called the law of similarity. We group things together that are alike. And if you see, look at the picture before you. We're going to group these little circles and make clusters. And you might see like a plus sign right here because we gather up the squares together and we gather up the circles together. The fourth Gestalt principle is the law of figure and ground. Do you see an object set off from a figure of a neutral ground? Right here, do you see a woman's face or do you see two horses fighting? Right here, you probably see both. Do you see a skull or do you see a woman applying makeup in a mirror? Right? And I'll give you the figure and ground. The figure depends on the ground. If the ground is black, you'll see a skull. If the ground is over here, you're going to see the horses. If the ground is this, you'll see the horses. You see what I mean? And in life, we perceive figures set off from a neutral background. Gestalt principle, well, this is also the aspect of closure. What do you see? A vase, or two faces looking at each other. The principle number 5, Gestalt law of proximity, means that we will group things that are near, and that's how we establish patterns. Gestalt principle number 6, and if you guys know Mr. Linhart, there he is. It's perceptual constancy, that shape, size, and brightness remains the same, even though it might look different in appearance. And look, over here at this picture, right? When your friend is running down the hallway towards you, you don't think your friend is growing, even though they appear to be larger the closer they get to you. Our brain knows that people don't just grow, that as you're getting closer, you look like you're larger, but it's really only because you're growing closer. This is your brain's way of keeping life constant. You're sitting under a tree, right? And something casts a shade on your book that you're reading. A cloud passed over the sun. You don't think that your book changes color. Like, it doesn't even pass your mind, right? It does not cross your mind that that's even a possibility, because you have color constancy, that this book is this color. And no matter what I'm doing, if there's something that doesn't allow me to see, it's because something else in the environment is happening. This is called constancy. Okay, this is called the famous visual cliff experiment done with babies. Do not try this at home with your local baby on a table. No. The visual cliff is an apparatus, and it's right here. Here's kind of like a depiction of it. It is a table that has like a lucite glass right here across the whole thing. The baby is absolutely safe in this experiment, and they're trying to see, can the baby perceive depth? Will the baby cross over the deep end? And here's the deep end right here. I'm going to use my yellow highlighter. The mom is calling the baby over. There is depth. Now the baby's totally safe. If you notice, the baby has his hand right there on top of the lucite glass, and it's totally see-through, so he can see down, but he is safe. He's not going to fall. This is why I'm telling you, don't do this at home with a table, because they will fall. They're top heavy. They're going to look over and they're going to fall over the table. This is actually a goat. Goats have great depth perception. And remember, where do goats live? A lot of times they live in the mountains and they don't fall off the cliff. They see depth. So this visual cliff experiment is about trying to figure out, are we born with depth perception, or is it something that we learn as we get older with experience, and as babies we learn to crawl? I'm going to give you the answer right now. The answer is both. We are born with the ability to perceive depth, but then with experience and time, we learn that falling will hurt us, and then we stay away from that cliff. We stay away from the fall. Older babies who are put in the visual cliff, when mama calls them over to the deep end, right here, like this mom did, right here, she's calling him over. Babies will kind of like start going, and then they'll hesitate and they won't go to mom because they know that they could possibly fall. They see the depth and they don't want to get hurt. Here's a quick video on the visual cliff experiment. And remember, if you can't see it in the PowerPoint, I will put it in modules. Okay, this is just a picture of depth perception and how you have to have your eyes open in order to perceive it. Okay, the 5 monocular depth cues really fast. Are you ready? Number 1, texture gradient. Texture is more dense from a distance than up close. Number 2 is linear perspective. Parallel lines are drawing closer and then it looks like they disappear. Number 3 is aerial perspective. Atmospheric dust and moisture and looks like fog and we can't see. Number 4, interposition. Have you ever used your thumb to cover the sun? That's when something larger blocks something farther away. And the last one is motion parallax. Things at a distance seem to be moving slower than those that are near. And those are the 5 monocular depth cues. Here's another quick video on prosopagnosia if you're interested, but remember it's not mandatory, but it's supplemental information. Okay, the AP is not a real big fan of altered states of consciousness, so the main thing that we cover year after year in this chapter is sleep, because that is something that they do require us to know and understand. Okay, the AP might not be real big fans of altered states of consciousness. They don't focus on things like hypnosis and meditation, but they do make us know the sleep cycle. So here it is. Here's a sleep drive. It's how we spend a third of our lives is sleeping. The sleep drive is a major drive aroused by physiological requirements, namely the hypothalamus. Alpha rhythms are basically your sleep stages, and they fluctuate with waves from 9 to 13 waves per second. We have 4 sleep cycles. You might see some textbooks saying that we have 5 sleep cycles because they count REM as a separate cycle, but there's 4. There's something called a myoclonic jerk that pretty much everyone experiences. It's like when they're falling asleep, they have like a sudden spasm, and that's a result of your brainwave activity, which I will show you next. And there are 4 stages of sleep. Pulse is slowing down, you're relaxing, you're breathing uneven, your brain waves are irregular, and you're experiencing beta waves. They're small, irregular waves. Stage 2, your eyes are going to start to roll side to side, and this is what they call REM activity. Stage 3 happens 30 minutes later. Your muscles are relaxed, and you're really starting to get into deeper sleep. Stage 4 is delta sleep, and they call it dreamless oblivion. You are totally out of it. Okay, so these are your stages of sleep, but in a graph form, because I want you to visually see what it is that your brain is doing while you're sleeping. So I'm going to take my red highlighter right here, and I'm going to show you. This is 90 minutes, right? Stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's 90 minutes right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Another 90 minutes. 1, 2, 3, and then it comes up 3, 2, 1, and that still takes 90 minutes. But what have you noticed? You are dipping less in delta sleep and more in REM. So here in yellow, no, let's do it in green. I'm going to show you, this is your REM cycles. REM increases throughout the night. Delta decreases. So really after the middle of the night, delta, you're not going to experience it anymore. Then all of a sudden you're going to have these long movie-like vivid dreams. So the last dream you have before you wake is probably your longest movie-like dream. It could be half an hour or more. Pretty cool, right? I wanted to show you, this is, hold on. This is your awake time. I'm trying to find it. Your awake time looks like this, right? Your REM sleep looks like this. Looks a lot alike, right? Lots of activity. When you have those deep, deep delta waves, they're right here. Delta waves are long and deep, and that is called dreamless oblivion. And you know what? Have you ever woken up from sleep and like someone like wakes you up and you're just like you open your eyes, you're like, what? And it feels like you were barely sleeping. It really depends what stage you were in. If you were in like light sleep, like over here, and you were in the middle of a dream, someone wakes you up, you don't even feel like you were sleeping. But if someone wakes you up from delta sleep, you could feel disoriented. You might be kind of like breathing heavy, like, where am I? Where am I? And you might be kind of scared. It's because they woke you up in dreamless oblivion, like you're in delta sleep. And it's important to know the difference between REM and NREM. NREM means you're not in REM at all, like you're not having all these little bursts of brain activity. REM is also called paradoxical sleep because it's a paradox. Your brain is wildly active and your body is super still. REM rebounding is when you are sleep deprived, right? You party Friday, you party Saturday, you finally crash on Sunday and you sleep. You're going to get more REM activity that Sunday than ever. Like you're going to get big chunks of it because you are rebounding. Like your brain is starving and it takes that REM. You got to remember that REM is like brain food. You need it. Everyone needs it. If you don't get enough REM, you don't get enough brain food, like you're literally stupid. That's why like sleep is so important. It's important for everything and it's so important and vital for your health. Now, here are some sleep disorders that you have to know. Narcolepsy is overwhelming sleepiness, and you can just fall asleep while you're standing up or while you're shopping or working. There's a lot of commercials out there advertising about narcolepsy. There's more awareness than ever. Sleep apnea is when you stop breathing in the middle of the night while you're sleeping, and this is very dangerous. It's wear and tear on your heart and your body. It makes you actually have a higher propensity for hypertension and stroke. Sleep apnea, of all the sleep disorders you're looking at here, that one is the most dangerous one. They call it the silent killer. Now, night terrors, they're more frightening for the family than they are for the victim, but this is when a person is literally living a nightmare. They're tossing around, they are flailing about. Night terrors are like nightmares, but the difference is when you wake up, you have no idea what happened and you have no recall about it. Somnambulism is a fancy word for sleepwalking and talking. Some of you guys sleep talk and it's pretty normal. There's really nothing to do about it. It gets serious when like you're sleep driving or you're sleep jumping out of windows. That could be a problem. But most somnambulism doesn't work like that. And there's a lot of myths about sleepwalking. Some people say that if you wake a sleepwalker, they will die. That is not true. How should you wake a sleepwalker? Gently. You lead them back to the bed. You don't want to startle them. No one dies from waking a sleepwalker unless they have like a pre-existing condition like a heart, condition. They're not going to die. And then insomnia is the inability to sleep or fall asleep or sustain sleep. Okay, so this slide tells us how long we should be sleeping according to, research. And have you ever noticed that the younger you are, the more you need to sleep? There's a brain reason for that, right? Your brain consolidates information, right? There my hands go. What am I doing with my hands? You guys remember what this is? Neuron activity, right? Every time a baby experiences something new, a hot temperature, something fuzzy, something slimy, bumpy. That's all new and that has to be consolidated. This is why newborns will sleep 18 hours a day, right? They're awake, they experience something, and then they have to sleep to consolidate that information. By the time you're 4 years old, you're sleeping about 9 to 10 hours a day. By the time you hit puberty, and this lasts for a long time, you're sleeping about an average of 7.5 to 8 hours a day, and that lasts for a long time, like into your old age. Now, when I say old age, what are you thinking? Don't say 40, because that's rude. Old age is like, we're in our 60s, 70s, 80s. This is why your grandma, she might wake up at the crack of dawn and think and not really need to sleep. Why? Your brain has been there and done that. You don't need all that memory consolidation. You don't need all that activity. That's why you need less sleep as you get older. Got it? Okay. Okay, I got this video off of YouTube. It's like this awful boyfriend. I totally think she should break up with him for this. But his girlfriend has narcolepsy, and her narcolepsy actually is triggered when she's scared. So he has his brother pop out of a closet, scare her, and then she kind of like faints. And it's not fainting. What it is, it's narcolepsy. She's falling into a sleep pattern, and then they have to kind of like wake her up to get her out of it. And he thinks it's hilarious, and apparently he's done this before. So watch the video, and yeah, we should write her letters and say break up now. Okay, this is a video about a little poodle that has narcolepsy, and she can't, whenever she gets excited, she falls asleep and she can't even eat. Just watch the video, it's really cute and sad. Okay, you can Google this. This is not something the AP requires you to know, but if you've ever wondered what the Nova Dreamer is, it's supposed to help you lucid dream. You can Google lucid dreaming, also something the AP doesn't ask about. But they do talk about the Freudian theory of latent versus manifest content of your dream. Your dream, the meaning about your dream is called the latent content. What your dream is, like what you're dreaming of, that's your manifest content. Okay, another sleep disorder is called sleep paralysis. It's pretty scary. Some of you might have experienced it once or twice in your lifetime. People who experience it chronically say that it is one of the most frightening experiences that they've ever had. This is a video that it's optional to watch. You don't really have to watch it. You just have to know that sleep paralysis would fall under the category of sleep disorders. And really, you know what it is? I can explain it really fast why we have sleep paralysis. Your body sends you a signal to stay quiet and still while you're sleeping. And what if you wake up and the signal is still being sent to the nervous system and you can't move and you feel like you can't talk and you want to talk? And it's like you're in between dream state and awake state. It's pretty scary. Okay, this is a video about a man that has narcolepsy. Every time he gets even remotely excited, like he starts to giggle or laugh, he goes right into an REM pattern. So watch the video. It's pretty sad. He has to live in an assisted living facility because he can't take care of himself. Anything at all makes him emotional. He watches TV, playing the guitar, a piece of music. If it rouses his nervous system, it puts him into an REM pattern, and it's absolutely dangerous. He can't cross the street by himself. He needs a carer, and that's what you're going to see in the video. Here's a quick video about somnambulism, some kids that experience it. But again, if this video doesn't work embedded in the PowerPoint, the important videos I'll make sure to include in modules, but this is just supplemental information. So you get a kind of like a feeling of what somnambulism is, but I think you know what sleepwalking and talking is like. These are some kids that experience night terrors. It can be debilitating, but usually you outgrow it. Like as you get older, you see less cases of night terrors. This is a quick video on sleep apnea, why people have sleep apnea, and remember the negative consequences are So many. It's very dangerous. Of all the sleep disorders, that's the most dangerous one. This talks really quickly about sleep deprivation. And if you look at the 24-hour cycles, anybody can do a couple of nights without sleeping. But when do you start hallucinating? Just know it's about the third 24-hour cycle. Remember, no naps, like you're seriously not sleeping. Then you could start hallucinating about the third or fourth day. These are all the bad effects of sleep deprivation in chart form. And you could see there's a lot of bad stuff that could happen to you if you don't sleep well. Teenagers are notorious for not sleeping well, and I want you to check out this flow chart about the vicious cycle of teen sleep deprivation. Now, this is controversial. What do dreams mean? Well, it really depends on where you stand. Some people say that dreams mean absolutely nothing. Some people say that dreams are meaningful. Honestly, if you look at cultures around the world, they have different views of dreaming. And if you share cultures, um, like one of the things that a lot of people in Latin America might say that if you dream of your teeth falling out, that means death. Um, Other people say in other cultures, when your teeth fall out in a dream, that means prosperity. Where does that come from? A lot of it is like cultural lore. If you pick up 3 different books about dream interpretation, you might get 3 different interpretations. Go check it out. But like this is exactly why the AP kind of stays away from this topic because there's so much gray area. All you have to know are the sleep stages, like the technical science side of sleep. It's probably more important than things like dream interpretation. So you have to know the psychoanalytical perspective. They're going to be yes, dreams mean something and they're important. But everybody else, if you're a behaviorist, you're going to say dreams are garbage. You know, my dog is dreaming. Is there like latent content behind his manifest images of his dream? You know, squirrels dream. Is there latent, hidden, subconscious meanings behind squirrel dreams? You know, if you're a behaviorist, you're going to say if you can't observe it, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. So it really depends on your psychological perspective, your school of thought. Okay, so here's a little stuff about hypnosis, and again, the AP stays away from this, but I thought you might be interested in it. So here's a little bit of information that you could fill in your guided notes on hypnosis. And this is a video of Ellen being hypnotized. Did you know that she was a smoker back in the day? Yeah, it's a big problem. And she wanted to quit smoking. So this is a kind of a famous hypnotist. He's a stage hypnotist, and he's been seen on other talk shows, and he sits with Ellen DeGeneres, and he basically makes her associate smoking with things that are disgusting and things that emotionally hurt her, like her mother crying. So it's a pretty interesting video. Check it out. Here's another quick video about hypnosis. And probably the most questions we've ever seen the AP ask on hypnosis is the different theories. There's role theory, state theory, and dissociation theory. And here's the 3 theories about hypnosis. Role theory says hypnosis is not special at all. You're playing a role. You're on stage, the hypnotist asks you to cluck like a chicken, act like Elvis, and you play the role of Elvis. You play the role of chicken. Not a special state, says role theory. State theory says yes, hypnosis is an altered form of consciousness that's being manipulated by the person who's hypnotizing you. That you are kind of altering your consciousness and they can manipulate you by implanting things into your subconscious. That's called state theory. Dissociation theory says that hypnosis has the ability for you to dissociate from yourself. It's like watching yourself, like you're watching a movie and you kind of dissociate away from yourself. When we talk about abnormal psych, we're going to talk about dissociation disorders. Have you ever seen like split, like DID, right? There are dissociative disorders that are very real. Everybody dissociates though to a mild degree. You're driving your car and you get where you're supposed to go and you're like, how'd I get here? Right? That's normal dissociation. Where'd you go? You spaced out. You're listening to the radio in your car. whatever. You got something on your mind, and then all of a sudden you get home. Feels like your car drove you there, right? That's normal dissociation. Well, in psychology and abnormal psych, we'll be talking about extreme forms of dissociation. Here's another quick video on hypnosis, and this is purely supplemental. If you can see it, great. If not, I'm not even going to embed this in modules because it's extra. And like I said, the AP stays away from topics like hypnosis and meditation and things like that. Most important thing are the sleep cycles. Okay, one other topic they might touch upon when they talk about altered states of consciousness is drug abuse. You have to know what is substance abuse, substance dependence, the tolerance on those substances, and then, of course, withdrawal symptoms from those substances. Here's I'm not sure if this link is still active, but it's called drugs or mugs before and after, like mug shots before and after, and the toll that drugs take on the human body. And you can see it in the before and after mug shots of people that have been put in jail for drug abuse, like methamphetamine and other things, like heroin. All right, so we are technically done. You're going to be seeing some quizzes coming up. You might have a sleep quiz coming up, so stay tuned to announcements and check that out. Remember the announcements, you should be logging on every day to announcements to see what's going on and also keep up with your calendar of things to do. All right, you guys, good job. We are done with the chapter.